Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the Online Series 8 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the last episode, we kicked off Road to Rank for Series 8, brand new format, and be playing a couple more games with the same Kyogre Tornadus team from yesterday. Like I did in all of 2020, I'm going to try to cycle through a new team every 2 episodes. I like to play 2 episodes so that you can see really how to play the team and also what it might be slightly weaker against. So, yeah. For the first game today, we're actually up against a really scary Sun team. Very hyper-offensive. I mean, yeah, like, you could see similar cores just with Torkoal over Groudon in the earlier formats. But what's interesting here is that there's no real Trick Room component. It's just very hyper-offensive. They also don't have Fake Out, which I think means that Tornadus is going to be really good for us here. So I think Tornadus, Kyogre... Regieleki is interesting because I can actually Electro Web with it, which is pretty valuable here. The only question is whether or not I'd want to lead with it because it seems like a decent late game answer. And I guess Incineroar, right? Bringing Kartana here doesn't seem like it makes very much sense. So I think I like Incineroar, Tornadus, Kyogre, Eleki. Yeah. Because part of the upside is that because my opponent doesn't have a Fake Out user, what I can do is Fake Out Whimsicott turn 1, Tailwind, and then taunt it turn 2 so that my opponent can set up a Tailwind. In these kind of matches where both you and your opponent have Tailwind, you either want to typically stagger your Tailwind by a turn, stall out your opponent's Tailwind, and then get a Tailwind up yourself, or just deny your opponent from setting up Tailwind outright. Because if you get Tailwind up while your opponent doesn't, then you're obviously going to be in a major advantage. Dynamaxing Tornadus is actually a slight possibility here as well, so we'll have to consider it. But thanks as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you want to check out this team, once again, there's a rental linked in the description below, and there's actually a really good video that you all should check if you're interested in figuring out how to use this team and also how to beat it. It was created by Hamster Mania, who I think was really one of the original creators of this archetype, so I've linked that down in the description below as well. And yeah, thanks as always for watching. So, it's going to be Venusaur and Whimsicott. Okay. Man, I actually really want to Dynamax Tornadus. I could Fake Out Max Airstream. Whimsicott could also have Protect here. I think the safer play is probably to Tailwind. I also have to play the Where's the Focus Sash guessing game here. I don't know the answer. I honestly do think Whimsicott protecting here is like a decent possibility, but then I can't taunt it, right? Like, Tailwind Fake Outs are safest bet. I just honestly think I'm going to get hit by a Sleep Powder from Venusaur. That does concern me a little bit. Okay, we'll see if they go for the Sleep Powder. Okay, Whimsicott switches out into Groudon. Okay. That makes sense. It's honestly not too bad for... It depends on what the Venusaur does here. If I went Fake Out Max Airstream in a Venusaur, this could have been pretty interesting. But that's okay. Like, the main thing here is I have denied their Tailwind at least for a turn. Given that they didn't max, I'm thinking it's Sleep Powder, but let's see. Yeah, they did just go for Sleep Powder onto Tornadus. Okay. Tornadus getting targeted there isn't the end of the world. This thing isn't going to do very much for me at this point in the match, honestly. Problem is that I guess they could just Sleep Powder the Incineroar as well. Oh, no, they can't. We have safety goggles. I forgot about that. Okay, that's actually really important then. So I can just Icy Wind here and Flare Blitz. I think my goal should be to just knock out the Venusaur because that's the biggest threat to my Kyogre in the back. I actually forgot about the safety goggles option. Would that have changed how I played this then? Oh, maybe. I also could have Parting Shotted there. Let's see if they're Focus Sash. They're not. Okay, yeah, because I think Focus Sash is likely going to be on Whimsicott, so safety goggles is such a good item on the Incineroar here. And I'm guessing a Precipice Blades. Oh, they actually go for Rock Slide. Okay, we should survive that with the Incineroar, though. Yep, we do. Okay, so neither of us have maxed yet. But the problem is that now they've delayed their Tailwind, right? So they can bring out Whimsicott and just click Tailwind. Like, you can just Tailwind Rock Slide here if you're my opponent. What do I want to do in response? Oh, they bring in Charizard, actually. Okay. I mean, I don't mind that, because Kyogre just comes in once I actually think they really should have brought out Tornadus, or sorry, Whimsicott there, but I'm content to just Icy Wind and Parting Shot here, I think. Yeah, I think I like that. Question is who to Parting Shot into. Probably Groudon. I mean, Charizard could max here. Ooh, they switched Groudon out. Okay. That's interesting. That's a smart play. That's a smart play. could have Flare Blitz the Groudon outright. So they're gonna max Charizard. Okay. And what do? I guess I would G-Max Wildfire Incineroar, actually. That's a really nice switch. I think Parting Shot onto Charizard, like, I don't know if I necessarily regret. I think it makes more sense because Charizard's scary. We do Wake Up, though, which is really nice, so I get this Icy Wind off. That's actually a really big deal. I think Flare Blitz onto Whimsicott would have just instant won us the game here, but I wanted to cover for the option of Groudon staying in, obviously. I think I have to bring out a Lecky here over Kyogre, because if I bring out Kyogre and it gets hit by a Max Airstream, that's really bad. I just take so much damage. I'm willing to sacrifice Regieleki at this point in the game, because like the main reason I brought it, well, I guess one of the reasons I brought it was to deal with Charizard. Yeah, the Airstream into Tornadus. Okay, I actually think that puts us in a phenomenal spot now, because now I can just bring out my Whimsicott. Sorry, my Incineroar. Yeah. I can bring out my Incineroar. It takes Solar Power. I like how my opponent did that, though, because at first I was like kind of surprised they switched in Charizard, but I think it made a lot of sense to pull off this exact play that they made. So, the question is now, what do? You should probably Max Guard the Charizard. It's my last turn of Tailwind. I don't know if their Whimsicott is Protect or not. I feel like if they did, they might have protected turn 1. So what I'm thinking of going for is just Fake Out and Volt Switch into Whimsicott. Expecting Charizard to protect in this position. I also could have just maxed Lecky and gone Fake Out Whimsicott, max Lecky, and max Lightning, but that doesn't feel super good. Yeah, they do end up max carding Charizard, and they don't protect Whimsicott. Okay. I think this should win us the game then. Actually, maybe Volt Switch doesn't KO here. That could be a problem. If I had Thunderbolt, I obviously would have gone for that. But this Life Orb boosted? Oh my gosh, it looks like it has 1 HP. Oh, okay. The good thing, though, is that my opponent, like, I can still Dynamax, right? So I think we're still in okay shape. But I think if we get that knockout, it's just game over. Because even though they reset the weather, I can just switch Kyogre out again and then bring it back in. Oh, also, I guess now if you're my opponent, it's kind of awkward because you don't have the Sun Up. If you want the Sun Up, you have to switch Whimsicott out into the Groudon. So I'm willing to Flare Blitz Whimsicott here, just Max and just Geyser into Charizard. I think that's fine. I wonder if Max Geyser knocks out in Sun. We should survive a Max Overgrowth. The question is whether or not we survive a Life Orb, Solar Power, Max Overgrowth should you switch Whimsicott into Groudon here. That could be interesting, but pretty sure Whimsicott has exactly 1 HP. That's what it looks like, so. A little unfortunate we don't get the knockout with that double up. But that's okay. Yeah, they're not going to switch out. Oh, but if you have Fake Tears and Max Overgrowth, does that one-shot Kyogre? Kyogre is pretty bulky, so I honestly wouldn't think so, but let's see. Either way, we Dynamax it here. Yeah, the only awkward thing is, like, I could have gone Fake Out Hurricane onto Venusaur turn 1 in this game. Okay, they go for Helping Hand. I don't think that's enough to knock out Kyogre, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I don't think this Airstream's enough. Yeah, it's not. Okay, so that's game over then. So even though we didn't knock out the ones... Oh, that was a crit too, wow. Yeah, this should just be a double KO. Now it's a 3v1, and I think what I can do is... I should outspeed the Groudon with Kyogre. I'm max speed. They didn't get a Tailwind up, so I think it should just be over from there. If my opponent Tailwinded, things could have gotten a little bit trickier here, but this is like an example of when you should Dynamax Kyogre, right? Like solely to survive. And in this point in the game, I don't really need Water Spout damage or Origin Pulse damage. It's more valuable just to Dynamax it. So, yeah. Sun versus Rain is really interesting in this format, I think. But the Incineroar here is really, really good against Sun, right? Because you have safety goggles on it, which I even forgot about on turn 1. So that was really nice because if my opponent, puts my Incineroar to sleep, this probably becomes a really, really tough game because I don't knock out the Venusaur either. And Venusaur is kind of the biggest threat to my Kyogre in this matchup. So Groudon comes back in. We are max speed. I guess my only fear is if I don't one-shot it with Geyser here. Like, I should switch into Regieleki here. I don't think a Precipice Blades KOs us, though. So, Unless they're like weakness policy Groudon. That actually could be scary. I'd probably lose to weakness policy Groudon, so maybe I should have covered for that option. I know you're not, well, let's see. Yeah, it's not enough for KO. I don't know, I was thinking I'd protect, but then I was like, if Groudon has some really crazy move like Substitute, would that be bad? Okay, it's not weakness policy. Whew, that was dangerously close on Kyogre. I figured we'd survive, but I thought we'd survive with a little bit more HP. Yeah, I mean, I think in retrospect, the better place to max guard Kyogre there, sacrifice the Regieleki, but my opponent could intentionally not knock out Regieleki there. And if they do that, then what's the situation? Well, then I could switch the Regieleki back out into Incineroar. So unless they have Substitute, like that's the only thing that saves them there, yeah, I think it's better to just have protected there. Because we would lose to a critical hit there, most likely, in this endgame. Or just a higher damage roll. Like, I didn't think Kyogre could even come close to getting knocked out there, because it was spread damage, but I'm curious if it's like Choice Band Groudon. Huh. I don't know my Groudon Precipice Blades like regular Groudon, because the only time I really used Groudon or Kyogre was like Primal Groudon, Primal Kyogre in 2016 and 19. Well, I suppose I used Kyogre way back in 2010, but Precipice Blades wasn't an attack back then. So, I don't know. I'm not super happy about how I played this game. Like, we won, and it was RNG free, but I think I could have optimized my play in a bunch of different spots. And my opponent made a really nice play on turn 1, switching the Whimsicott out. I think that was really well done on there. And I suppose if we got the knockout onto Whimsicott instead of having it hang on with 1 HP, we probably also would have just sealed up the game instantly there. So, that was a little unfortunate, but that's okay. It is scary though, right? Because like you don't want to really bring Kartana into a matchup like that, but it actually could be pretty good. It actually is really solid against Whimsicott, Venusaur, and Groudon, especially if you have the rain up. But obviously, it gets crushed by Charizard, and if you don't have the rain up, Groudon can just fire punch it easily for a KO as well. So yeah, I don't know. Okay, I think it's the exact same team. Our Pokemon's in the same order, plus these 3 specifically are all male as well, so I think this is just going to be an exact mirror match. So, how do we play an exact mirror match? I honestly have no idea. I'm thinking leading Tornadus plus Regieleki. Kyogre in the back. Kartana here. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. I don't know. There's so many different options here, though. I was considering Incineroar Tornadus, but if you actually, maybe that's not so bad because I don't think my opponent's gonna just lead Kyogre here. And if they lead the same thing like I'm leading, I don't know. Instant's actually kind of valuable because I can fake out the opposing Tornadus, but then what, right? Actually, it would be valuable solely to fake out Tailwind turn 1, Taunt turn 2. But then the problem is that you have Incineroar and Tornadus out on the field, and those 2 Pokemon do not do any damage. So, yeah. You are probably going to run into a fair amount of mirror matches if you're playing with this team, so this is something you should expect. So I don't know. I haven't played any games of the mirror, so I actually have no idea really how this plays out. But the idea behind Regieleki is that it's the fastest Pokemon in this matchup, and it can lower my opponent's speed. So I want to utilize as much speed control as possible here. So let's see what they lead with. It's going to be Regieleki and Kartana. Okay. So I get a guaranteed Tailwind up, but I actually think my opponent's lead is really solid here, because what this allows them to do is stagger their Tailwind by a turn, I think. Which I think is really smart. I think it's really smart. This is a possibility. I don't think it one-shots Kartana, though, but it might still be worth going for. Because I don't think I want to Dynamax Kyogre. I could Dynamax my Kartana in this game, though. That's like the main possibility, right? I don't know. This is honestly a really interesting option to me. I think I'm going to Dynamax Regieleki and Tailwind. Because I'll have the speed advantage, at least for turn 1. Actually, if they don't double up onto Tornadus... then Tornadus also survives. I'm thinking you Volt Switch, Smart Strike Tornadus here. Maybe you Dynamax. Oh, you know what would be a really smart play? Dynamax Kartana, Max Airstream Tornadus. Because then you bring out your Tornadus, and then you... Yeah, I think that's actually... That would be a really good play. You're probably Dynamax and Kartana then, right? Yep. Okay. Nice lead. Electy Kartana. I like that a lot, because you probably have Tornadus in the back, and then you stagger that Tailwind. So, let's see. Now the question is whether or not they doubled up onto Tornadus. Because if they didn't, I think it's maybe still okay. Because then you don't get your Tailwind up next turn, and I just get another Max Lightning off. So I get Tailwind. I get the Max Lightning. It's probably only going to do like 30-40% at best. A little bit more, actually, just under 50. Like 45-ish around. So another Max Lightning should KO the Kartana with Terrain, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but it's looking decent. They do Volt Switch, yep. So I think now you go into Tornadus. If you Airstream, it's just such a smart play because you get a speed boost and a beast boost. Then we're in really awkward. So it's a really awkward position to be in. Should be Tornadus coming in here. Unless my opponent didn't bring it in this matchup, but I think that would make so much sense. Interesting, it's actually Amoonguss. Okay. Jeez, that still does so much to a Lucky, though. That indicates to me that they don't have Tornadus in the back. Okay, they do change the terrain, though, which obviously doesn't work in our favor. Now, I can Icy Wind. They know I have Taunt, right? So, like, would you really go for, like, Rage Powder here just makes the most sense? I could Lightning Hurricane here. Kind of like Icy Winding, though, because if I Icy Wind, that sets up my Kartana. Well, I also don't know if Max Lightning Hurricane actually KOs the Kartana. It might not, because it's Assault Vest. But I don't think I need to Ice... No, I should Icy Wind. Nah. I went for Icy Wind. I don't know if that's the best option. Okay, they do go for Rage Powder. So maybe that's okay, because now I bring in Kartana. I can just Sacred Sword Icy Wind. Yeah. I didn't think they'd bring Amoonguss, to be honest. But I like their decision to bring it. I think it's very smart. I could have Max Guarded there. That may have been smarter, too. The only question is whether or not Sacred Sword plus Icy Wind knocks out the opposing Kartana. I don't think it does. That's the problem. Yeah, they go for Airstream. Onto Tornadus. Okay, that's actually a really big deal, and I'll tell you why. So they were reading into Max Guard on Lucky, which makes a lot of sense. But the reason that's a really big deal is because I have the Terrain up for another turn now. So I can just Max Lightning and kind of dunk on something. Oh, I wonder if Water Spout one-shots. Should probably go into Kartana. But if I go into Kartana, they can just Sacred Sword me. Max Lightning will KO Amoonguss, but I don't think my Sacred Sword KOs them, and they can Airstream again. Like, I'm thinking I can just Max Lightning Kartana and Water Spout in this position by bringing Kyogre in. They're probably forced to Rage Powder with Amoonguss. And then it's a question of whether or not Water Spout KOs Kartana, basically. It's single target, but they are Assault Vested. So I'm not sure. I honestly think it does if it's single target, so I'm going to go for this play. Because we know Kartana's Assault Vested, so it can't protect. I really like the Kartana Alecki lead from my opponent's end. And that's why I said, like, maybe Incineroar actually can work as the lead here. It's just that if my opponent leads Kyogre, it's really bad. Oh! They protect Amoonguss. Okay, that's good for us, because it's a guaranteed KO onto the Alecki now. Or, sorry, onto the Kartana. Nice, okay, actually the Max Lightning just KOs by itself. But, yeah. Ooh, that was a crit. Don't think that mattered, because it looked like with Terrain it would have done enough anyway, but... this endgame becomes really interesting. Because I don't have Tailwind anymore, and I think it actually might just come down to a speed tie between the Electro Webs, which is really scary. Yeah. Wait, they brought out Incineroar. What? I feel like it's okay to just bring out Regieleki there, because you can just Electro Web. Huh. So it's interesting, they didn't bring Kyogre in this game either, but the good thing is that we have Terrain up, which is a big deal here. It's a very big deal, actually. I kind of just like double protecting here. It's just that they could switch out into their Regieleki, so I could also Electro Web. Oh. Actually, I think maybe just Electro Web and Water Spout here is fine. They go for Fake Out. Okay, on to Kyogre. That's not ideal, but it's okay. The main thing is because I have the Electric Terrain, and you can't switch in on Water Spouts on anything right now. And Regieleki survives, so let's see. Oh, they forgot about Electric Terrain. Oh, that's why they didn't... I forgot there was one more turn of Tailwind, so that's why they didn't bring out Regieleki immediately. Yeah, that makes sense. But now they're really trapped, I think. If you're my opponent, I think the only play you can make in this position is to protect Amoonguss. You protect Amoonguss, right? How many turns of Electric Terrain are left? That's the other question, too. Protect Amoonguss, sacrifice the Incineroar. I have no need to do anything with the Regieleki. I actually don't want to faint from Life Orb, so I'm actually just going to protect in this position and Water Spout. Because I think Kartana with AV in the back wins us this game. If they don't protect Amoonguss, like maybe Water Spout just KOs? I'm not 100% sure on that. And they didn't protect. Wow, okay. That's really good. Man, today has been the like surviving with 1 HP kind of game. Dang. And clear Smog into a Regieleki. Okay, perfect. Okay. So one more turn of Electric Terrain. I have Kartana in the back, which is very good for us. I think my play here is to just protect an Electro Web. If we win the Electro Web speed tie, or we win the Regieleki speed tie, it's just game over instantly. This is also where if I actually hit that Electro Web on Amoonguss earlier, it would have fainted. So that's a little unfortunate, but that's just part of the game. You just have to, you know, deal with the scenario that you're in right now. This is going to be really close. Okay, they Rage Powder. That's fine. They should Electro Web here. Wow, they didn't Electro Web. Maybe they weren't confident in Electro Web KOing Kyogre. I actually have no idea what that damage calc is. So we lost the speed tie, but it ends up being okay anyway. This was scary though, because yeah. But now that should be game over. The main thing here is that they didn't bring out Tornadus, right? So this is exactly what I was talking about, in which, like, if you're going up against a mirror match, like, speed is so important, which is why I was like, I'm just going to try to, like, guarantee that I outspeed my opponent. However, I think they outled me here, and if they had Tornadus in the back instead of Amoonguss, this honestly would have been a loss pretty early on. Because I think what you do is you max Airstream. I guess my opponent would also have to find that play even if they had Tornadus. But what you could do is max Airstream, Volt Switch into Tornadus, get a guaranteed knockout, outspeed with Kartana. And because I went all in by Dynamaxing Regieleki on turn 1, it would have been pretty disastrous. So, my one question is whether or not, and I want to do this calc after the game, whether or not Regieleki could have one-shot my Kyogre. Because Electric Terrain was up. It was also, yeah, I think my opponent forgetting about the Spore definitely was fortunate, because they could have just gone Clear Smog onto the Regieleki that turn, right? I suppose if you do that, though, you give me a free switch into Kartana, so then I can pick up, well then, I mean, it's really close. It is really close. Okay, let's just play this out. Just Leaf Blade here, and I think Water Spout's actually better, because, yeah, you can't knock out both Pokemon here. You have to knock out the Kartana. Yeah, they go for Thunder onto Kartana. Oh, actually, they target Kyogre. I think that's why I Water Spouted, by the way, to cover for that option, because they can't knock out both Pokemon. So, let's see. Regieleki into Kartana, Electric Terrain, Life Orb, Transistor. They're not Modest, so it's Timid, Life Orb. I'm just curious if it would have one-shot the Kyogre with Electro Web. Because I'm surprised they went for Thunder there in that endgame. Onto Kyogre. Oh, this is assuming Primal Kyogre. Wait, really? The calc is telling me it only does 59%. Oh. Then with that, it actually would have been correct to just have attacked with both Pokemon there. Well, I suppose I could get crit. If they crit me there, do I lose? No, I actually guarantee... Wow, that's actually surprising. I mean, I know Kyogre's special defense is good, but, actually, it's really good. It's 140. Was it the same team? Yeah, it was. Okay. So I actually then, like, now that I know that calc, it's actually better just to attack with both Pokemon in that endgame, I think. Is it... Okay, let's say Amoonguss protects. If I Electro Web... Oh, does Kartana knock out Regieleki with a single Leaf Blade? I think it does. Yes, it does. So, the best play in that endgame was actually to just attack with both Pokemon because apparently Kyogre can survive a crit Electro Web, which I didn't know, in Electric Terrain. So that's good to know. Because what I can do then is just Water Spout and Electro Web. And I think that covers all of our bases. Even if you Thunder and you KO the Kyogre, well, I suppose I can miss Electro Web, so it's still not a guaranteed win, but we're not in bad shape. Okay, Xerneas here. That's cool. So we're running the Gauntlet, a lot of different restricted. So that's the cool thing. I honestly think every restricted Pokemon... I've said this in the last 2 videos already, but I really do think they're all viable in this format, which makes it fun. So I think this is, not surprising to see. With Xerneas, I think you're pretty much always going to see Redirection. You're going to see a Fire-type Pokemon or a Steel-type Pokemon pretty frequently as well. So obviously, they could just go with Indeedee plus Xerneas lead. But that's not really that good, is it? Also, the problem with Xerneas here is that if I just Tailwind, like, you need Tailwind and Geomancy up at the same time. But I suppose you could just go Indeedee Xerneas then. I like Tornadus. They don't have any Fake Out. I think it's Tornadus, Aleki, Kyogre, plus Kartana in the back. You could make an argument for Amoonguss. I'm just not super comfortable given the Torkoal, Landorus, and Indeedee. I don't know, though. Amoonguss does really counter the Xerneas pretty hard, so maybe it wasn't Amoonguss. I don't know. But if anything, I hope that in watching the last 2 episodes with this team, you can see how many flexible options you have with Dynamaxing. Yesterday, we Dynamaxed Incineroar, Kartana, Kyogre. Today, we Dynamaxed Kyogre, Aleki. So, in 5 games, we Dynamaxed 4 of the Pokemon already. You're not going to Dynamax Amoonguss ever, pretty much. Bar some really obscure scenario. I don't like my lead here. I don't like my lead because the problem is it's too vulnerable to Xerneas, I think. Yeah, this wasn't very good on my end. I think Tornadus was... Well, the Tornadus covers for Whimsicott, I suppose. Like, what I should do here is just knock out the Indeedee. I don't know if Volt Switch KOs. Electro Web's kind of cool because then I can Tailwind next turn anyway. I really don't want to rely on hitting inaccurate attacks, so that's scary. And it's pointless to Tailwind turn 1 here. Okay. I think I will Hurricane Volt Switch. I think I'm okay with that. Wow, they didn't go for a Follow Me. That's a good play. That's a really good play. Because they weren't worried about Xerneas fainting. Okay, I mean, if we hit Hurricane, we knock out Indeedee. Honestly, this is not bad for us at all, because I can just Tailwind Steel Spike next turn. We do hit Hurricane. I don't know if that's enough for a KO, though. Okay, it's enough. That was scary, though, because Hurricane's not high accuracy. I think they probably Geomancy here. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Let's see how much work Xerneas can put in. I do have AV Kartana, which I can Dynamax. I suspect my opponent will bring in Landorus, but I can Tailwind switch Kartana back out into Aleki, which I think is okay. They don't have redirection support anymore. Now, the problem, though, is that they could just bring out Whimsicott. Oh, that actually would be... If you bring out Whimsicott, you can Tailwind, and then even if I Tailwind, I'm still slower than you, which is kind of bad. And this is why maybe Amoonguss actually was the right Pokemon to bring in the back. Because I just redirect your attacks away from the Xerneas. So, I don't like my lead here. I even, identified the Xerneas-Indeedee combination, but my lead was not the best answer to it. Something like Aleki Kyogre is really interesting because I can just Electro Web, Water Spout. I drop Xerneas' speed, or Tornadus Kyogre even. Maybe it was Torn Kyogre actually. I think that's it. Because it gives me the option of Tailwinding, Taunting, and Icy Winding. So, this is still not lost by any means, but I had ways to deny the free Geomancy setup turn 1. I did not bring those ways. Because Initially, I was like, oh, I can just lower my opponent's speed, but no, it didn't really make much sense. Okay, they bring out not Kartana, Torkoal. Huh. Okay. Well, I think with that, it's definitely just Tailwind here and switch out into Gieleki. Is it? I could taunt, too. No, I think it's Tailwind. You know what? Actually, I think it might have been the move. Well, I was going to say to Dynamax Kartana outright and just target Xerneas here, but I think it is a possibility my opponent protects Xerneas as Torkoal goes for a Eruption or a Heat Wave. So I want to cover that option. Oh no, I can't taunt. Never mind. Psychic Terrain is up. Yeah. Okay. So instead of Groudon plus Xerneas, now you've got Torkoal plus Xerneas, which is cool. Good job by my opponent to just set up for free turn 1. They're going to Dynamax. I could lose both Pokemon here immediately. Wow! What? I did not see that coming. And I'm going to be honest, I actually don't mind that very much because Kyogre should just obliterate that. And they protect. Oh, that's so good for us. They went all in on this play. They were basically expecting me to Dynamax the Kartana, hoping to Steel Spike into Xerneas and then Flare to KO Kartana. But I think we actually just instantly win the game off that. Unless they didn't KO Kartana, but that'd be really weird. Yeah, perfect. So Regieleki is basically used as a sacrifice here. Great. Okay, so actually, it's not over yet. It's definitely not over yet because I forgot that they do have that special defense boost on the special defense boost on Xerneas, right? So I think we need to go into Kartana here. But I think what we can do is we can actually Dynamax Kartana, Steel Spike just to deal with Xerneas. My only fear is them getting a double protect at this point in the game. Because I think regular Kyogre wins us the match at this point. It's just scary because I actually do lose to a double protect here. I will Icy Wind. Gosh, I don't know if Smart... No, I don't think it one-shots. Okay, maybe the play was to just bring out Kyogre, Icy Wind, Water Spout. But the problem is I'd actually lose the game if you knock out Kyogre. Because Kyogre is my only answer against the Torkoal, which is why I'm playing conservatively like this. Alright, yeah. Let's see if they realize that they need to go for a double protect here. If they do and they get it, they will win the game, I think. Because I'll effectively have wasted my Dynamax for nothing. So, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of my play here. Even though it works in our favor most of the time, I can't help but think I could have optimized my odds even better. What would the play have been then? Kyogre and just Icy Wind Water Spout, but we don't KO Xerneas, and then Xerneas knocks us out in return. And if Torkoal max guards, isn't that really bad for us? Okay, they go for the double, but they don't get it, yeah. They identified that was the right play, though, so props to them. But now I think I can just win with Kyogre. Yeah. So in the end, Xerneas actually didn't get to do anything, but we were fortunate in this game because we hit Hurricane and they didn't get a double protect. Now, the odds are in our favor for both of those, but the odds of both happening aren't exactly fantastic, so... I don't know, though. I don't think bringing out Kyogre here just wins us the game either. And I think that This is why I was saying, like, even though we're in a decent spot now, my lead just wasn't very good, in my opinion. So I could have led better to not be in a tough spot, but I didn't do that. Yeah. So even though I maxed solely to try to get the knockout, because I wasn't sure if Smart Strike Hurricane KOs Xerneas. I don't think it does. Xerneas is a pretty bulky Pokemon. But the reality is now my opponent is Torkoal, Dynamaxed, and I have Mystic Water, Kyogre, with Tailwind up, and I can Hurricane with Tornadus, and I can Icy Wind. So, and if you look at what my opponent had in the back, they had nothing to deal with Kyogre. They have Gieleki, Landorus, Whimsicott. None of those are really very good. Obviously, Gieleki's decent, and they do have Gieleki here in the back, but it doesn't matter because we outspeed. Okay, the only thing I maybe want to cover for is potential Focus Sash. I just want to make sure, yep, I still have 2 turns of Tailwind left here, so that's good. And we do outspeed max speed Regieleki as well. So it's looking pretty good. I feel like Water Spout should KO Torkoal. Maybe I'm wrong on that assessment. I'm just worried about, like, Torkoal surviving. I think it's probably better to... I mean, what if Regieleki is Focus Sashed? Oh, you don't one-shot Kyogre anyway, right? Yeah, so I think we can just Hurricane here. Maybe Icy Wind's better. It covers both my bases. But I don't want them... Okay, they end up just forfeiting. Yeah, I mean, we had Kyogre in this endgame, so it would have been tough to do much there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of how I played this, though. So, let's see. They brought Xerneas. This is the thing with Kyogre setups, by the way. You just put yourself in a position to just click Water Spout a bunch in the endgame, and, like, you will just often win the game. The Dynamax Torkoal was honestly really smart. They did it to try to cover for me maxing Kartana, but I think that was, like... I wouldn't call it a super greedy play, but because they maxed the Torkoal, it gave me kind of, like, an immediate win condition. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was a really interesting match. But that's kind of the problem with Xerneas in this format, right? In VGC 2019 and 2016, you had Primal Groudon as a partner for it. So, like, yeah, you have a really strong Fire-type option that beats Steel-types really hard. In that match, my opponent was forced to use Torkoal, right? And the other problem is you can only Dynamax one of your 2 Pokemon in that position. So, yeah. Like, Xerneas struggles a lot more in VGC 2021 Series 8 because you don't have as strong, like, Fire-type partners, and you don't have great coverage, right? You're going to always want Geomancy and Protect, pretty much, if you're running a Geomancy set. I mean, AV Xerneas was actually a thing for a little bit in previous formats. Choice Spec Xerneas, Choice Scarf Xerneas were, like, obscure sets that you would see sometimes. So, I think, like Geomancy is definitely significantly weaker than back in the day. Just because there's so many strong Steel types, right? Kartana, Metagross, Celesteela, just to name a couple. Not only are there a lot of strong Steel types that can Dynamax to deal with your Xerneas, but there's also no Groudon, Primal Groudon. And we're up against the rank number 3 opponent. Oh my goodness. If they win this, they probably just get to first. So, that's fun. Well, I don't mind losing here. We had a nice string of wins. I don't think I played super well in them, but that's the beautiful thing about Pokemon, right? Like, you can always learn from either wins or losses. You really should aim to analyze your games as much as possible. And you don't have to play perfectly to win every match in Pokemon. Solgaleo, Spectrier. Okay. Very cool. I like Regieleki a lot here. Solgaleo is kind of scary, but I think Kyogre can deal with it decently well. I like Incineroar plus Regieleki here, especially because we have Goggles on the Incineroar. And Darkest Lariat. Like, it actually does a fair amount of damage into my opponent's team. So Incineroar, Regieleki, Kyogre... And Kartana does not feel good here, right? So it's probably Tornadus for a Tailwind. Because Kyogre Water Spouts in Tailwind look kind of nasty here. Amoonguss doesn't feel good given the Solgaleo and the Moltres and the Amoonguss. And I guess Incineroar to an extent. Kartana doesn't feel super good either because it just isn't good into the main offensive threats, right? Galarian Moltres. Spectre could burn me. And, yeah, we could Dynamax Kyogre. Very much depends, but I think Solgaleo is very scary, and it's definitely established itself as a pretty good early meta option. Spectre or Amoonguss? Okay. How do we feel about this? Incineroar's in a good spot. Actually, I think, yeah. I think what I can do turn 1 is just protect Regieleki and Darkest Lariat into Spectrier. Because I have the Goggles on this thing. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, the only problem with that play is that it guarantees I fall asleep turn 2 onto the Regieleki slot, because I didn't have Kartana in the back. Oh, not necessarily, right? I could just Flare Blitz KO the Amoonguss next turn. Okay, I'm down to Darkest Lariat protect turn 1. I guess the only downside is if you max Spectre and then max Quake, but I feel like the odds are relatively slim, so yeah, they don't go for that. Nice! Oh, that is such a good turn for us. Perfect. Because I can double up onto Amoonguss now, and they just Snarl. Beautiful. Okay, that was really, really good. Yeah. The safety goggles just gives me the ability to play this way, right? So that's really great. I honestly wonder if this just one-shots, because I think this Incineroar does actually have some offense, which is kind of neat. It is Sash Spectrier. Okay, but that's fine, right? Because I can just Electro Web Flare Blitz now. My opponent has no counterplay to that. The only question is whether or not we can one-shot with Flare Blitz. But yeah, it is Admin Incin, so we do have more offense than you typically see. Okay, I'm down for that. They might switch out here. I think that's definitely a possibility. Like, they could switch out into their own Incineroar. But I think it's fine to just Electro Web Flare Blitz. Because if anything's going to get put to sleep at this point, I think I want Regieleki to get put to sleep anyway. They don't switch out, though. So if they're not Akaberry, maybe Amoonguss just faints here, and then we're up 4-2. It feels like a huge advantage for us. So let's see. Okay, they're not Akaberry, so if this one-shots, I don't think it will, but I don't know, it is admin. Wow. How many Pokemon have survived with 1 HP today? Oh, it is just game over, I think, if that KOs. I could have Volt Switch Flare Blitz to Amoonguss there. Oh my goodness. I think that's actually like 3 different Pokemon that have hung on with, I think, like a 1 to 3 HP. They bring out a Lecky, though. That's really interesting. Okay. Because I feel like I can just Tailwind with Tornadus and win the game. I actually think our best option is to Dynamax Incineroar at this point in the match. Because a Max Flare will KO the Amoonguss through Protect, and if they switch into Solgaleo, it'll KO that as well. So I'm down to Max Flare here. And, you know, just burn a Sleep Turn with my Lecky. Yeah, I mean, I think if we get the knockout onto... Oh, actually, maybe not, because... Oh, you don't know, if we do. Well, then you can't Spore into my Lecky. So then I'm just up 4-2. They switch out, show me Solgaleo. Oh, they actually brought Moltres. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Is that a problem? It could be. It could be. Oh, wow. I think... No, the play was definitely to Max Flare into a Lecky. Okay, they Volt Switch. What's interesting, though, is, like, what do you Dynamax? Also, if I get a 1-turn Wake Up with the Lecky, this game's over, too, I think. But the problem is I think I'm going to activate Berserk here. Okay, so we take our first turn of sleep. But I think it's... Oh, Max Darkness may be better, because, yeah, it does cover for Solgaleo. Okay, we do so much damage into Moltres where now it's kind of awkward. Like, I think my opponent probably goes all in this next turn, tries to Dynamax Moltres, and Max Airstream into Incin. Oh, I suppose I could Max Guard the Incineroar, actually. I didn't think about that. I also don't know if you one-shot from this range, to be honest. I don't think a Max Airstream KO... Oh, they could be Life Orb. Okay, I think I'm fine Electro Webbing and Max Flaring here. If we wake up, we win, I think. The Safety Goggles is super clutch for us right now. Plus, we still have Kyogre in the back, so don't forget about that. They are going to commit the Dynamax to Moltres, which makes me feel okay, because Max Lecky actually could have been kind of scary in this endgame, given what I have. Okay, so Moltres gets the Max off. Max Guarding may have been better with Incin there, I think. Actually, you know what I like? Max Guard Volt Switch? Maybe? They go for Rage Powder, okay, so let's see if a Lecky can wake up here. Stays asleep. They're gonna Airstream. Into a Lecky? Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're not expecting Safety Goggles here. That makes sense. They get the crit, but I think that's game over. Because we should one-shot Moltres in Sun, I would think. Maybe that's a bad assumption, actually. But I can just bring out Tornado. Like, Safety Goggles is literally the game changer here. And it's so good on this Incineroar. Yeah, we just knock out Moltres. Nice. That's also why I played the way I did turn 1. My opponent was probably kind of surprised to see me just go for Darkest Lariat. Normally, that's not a really good play, because you can Rage Powder with the Amoonguss to just redirect that away, right? But in this game, I had the room to make that play. So I'm just going to route Tornadus, Tailwind, Max Flare into Amoonguss, and then Kyogre Water Spout wins the game. So, yeah, once again, keep your Dynamax options flexible when playing with this team, because there are a lot of great options. So, let's just Flare into Amoonguss. I think that should KO through Protect. Just Tailwind. Is that the best play, actually? Because Lecky outspeeds us even after Tailwind. But we have Kyogre Water Spout in the back. No, I actually, you know what I think the play is? I think it's to taunt the Amoonguss here. I don't need a Tailwind. Tailwind this turn's useless, yeah. It was definitely to taunt Amoonguss, because my opponent could theoretically still win this if they one-shot. But they protect the Lecky. Okay, well now we win the game. I think my opponent could have won off Thunderbolt crit into Incineroar. They're not specs there, so... Yeah, Thunderbolt crit into Incineroar, you pick up the knockout, and then Spore into Tornadus. Because then Tornadus falls asleep, I bring out Kyogre, And then if Water Spout knocks out Amoonguss from that range, we're probably fine anyway. But Safety Goggles Incin was the clutchest thing for us here. And I think with this Incineroar, you can actually play a lot more offensively than previous formats because it is actually superb on this team. So just going to Flare Blitz and Icy Wind here. And my opponent didn't really have many options, honestly. Like I think like this single set just had a really, really good matchup because like they didn't have a great max option. I still don't regret max flaring into the Moltres switching because it just did so much damage where we were just one attack away from getting a knockout, right? So like their options were super limited. You can also see how fast Regieleki is, by the way. We have Tailwind up and we dropped Regieleki's speed and it still outspeeds us. But we've got Kyogre in the back. We've got Tailwind. Oh, no, we did set up Tailwind, yeah. Incin's not very fast though, so that's not surprising, obviously, by any means. But now we can just win with Water Spout. So yeah, I can see why my opponent didn't bring out Solgaleo because I have a pretty good matchup against Solgaleo with the Incin and the Kyogre. But we had a really early lead, so the early lead really just carried us here. I mean, let me just double check I have Tailwind up. It's always good to confirm these things. Yeah, 2 turns. So my opponent doesn't really have any outs here at all. We know they're not Choice Scarf. We already dropped their speed, and we have Tailwind up. Plus, we normally outspeed. Kyogre timid outspeeds Regieleki, fortunately. Max speed Regieleki. So, yeah. We do gatekeep our opponent from getting _1, potentially. But that was a fun game. I think this was more of a team advantage than anything. I don't think I played really well by any means. It was more just having AV Incineroar. Right? Sorry, not AV Incineroar. Safety Goggles Incineroar. Like, my opponent just really couldn't do very much with the lead that they were given. And I think their turn 1 play makes so much sense as well because I think often you will expect like Fake Out into the Amoonguss or just a Flare Blitz into that slot. But because I knew I had the Safety Goggles, I had a really, really safe play to make turn 1. The only downside, like I said, is if they Dynamax Spectre and Max Quake and their Life Orb and they one-shot. That actually would be pretty bad. Yeah, I guess if that happened turn 1, it would have been kind of a disaster. So that's kind of the scary thing about playing against Spectrier. You don't know what set it's going to be running. Could be Life Orb, could be Focus Sash, it could be offensive, could be Snarl, Will-O-Wisp. So yeah, fortunate enough for us that didn't end up being the case. But I don't think my opponent really had too many options, honestly. And that was just us. Yeah, sometimes like our teams, like your team will have a set or a Pokemon that matches up really well against your opponent. So that game really highlights the strength of Safety Goggles and Incineroar. So yeah. That's going to be it with our time for this team. We're going to be switching to something new tomorrow, and I'm excited to feature it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the time with this team. It is, I think, like I said, probably the most standard team composition running around right now, but for good reason, right? We have so many Dynamax options with this team, even more than I expected, because when you look at this team on paper, I think, like, I was thinking, oh, you're probably just going to Dynamax Kartana, like, 90% of the time. But in the end, what do we Dynamax today? Incineroar, Kartana, Regieleki, Kyogre, and then what did we Dynamax yesterday? The Kyogre, Incineroar, and Kartana. So the only 2 Pokemon we didn't Dynamax were Tornadus and Amoonguss, and those aren't really great max options. But Tornadus can max depending on, like, the game against Venusaur, I was actually thinking about maxing Tornadus, right? So it goes to show how flexible your Dynamax options can be and how important it is for a team like this because it gives you infinitely more options. So yeah. Thank you once again to Hamster Mania for originally creating this concept or being one of the first people to kind of talk about it publicly. Once again, he has a video that's really helpful, linked down in the description below. Thank you to Toby for building the team in-game and for the rental code. And yeah, thanks to you all, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.